Hey guys, Desolator Magic here, and I am excited because we already have the reveal of the dungeon cards and how they work. There's still a couple assumptions we have to make and a couple tiny little rules things, but basically we have a full description of how they work. So here are the 3 dungeons. It's pretty much what I and a lot of people were imagining, where you do a certain set of things and then you complete the dungeon, you know, kind of like D&D. You go room to room, and they're literally called rooms, and, well, let's just jump into it. So, Lost Mine of Phandelver, for example, let's just start with that one. I lied, let's start with Shortcut Seeker. Whenever Shortcut Seeker deals combat damage to a player, venture into the dungeon. So then the reminder text is, enter the first room or advance to the next room. Boy, does anybody else really not like that phrasing? I mean, you're literally not entering the dungeon every time other than the first time. In fact, you could be leaving the dungeon. They could have went with, like, venture through, because that'd be more generic. But anyway, well, there you go. There's your trigger. I feel like a lot of these are going to be recurring, obviously. So you would start in cave entrance. So then once you enter the cave entrance room, boom, scry 1. Then the next time you get, I'll just call it a venture trigger, you can either choose to go to the Goblin Lair or the Mine Tunnels. Now, the name doesn't mean anything. It's just for, you know, style. And then they did work in what I was hoping they would work in when I first saw this, which is kind of like the predicting ahead, like you went this route, so now you can't go that route. Although, I don't love that these all end in the same room. It would be nice if the ending was the various thing. Like, you choose hallway 1, hallway 2, that's it. But I don't know, like, predicting 3 turns ahead which one's going to be the most useful isn't the best thing in the world, but then again, like, that's where the skill comes in, you know? Reading your opponent's deck, knowing the board state, I mean, that you'd get a high level of skill with that level of prediction, but, okay. So if you go the Mine Tunnels route, you can go to the Dark Pool or the Fungi Cavern, but if you went the Goblin Lair route, you can't go the Fungi Cavern. You can only go to the Storeroom or the Dark Pool. So those are, from left to right, Storeroom is put a 1/1 counter on target creature, so you wouldn't want to go that route if you don't have a creature. And then Dark Pool, each opponent loses 1 life, you gain 1 life. Well, when would you ever not want that to go off? So that's like the okay, whatever one. And then the Fungi Cavern is target creature gets -4 until your next turn. So do they even have a creature out, and are they attacking with it? So you got to think about that. So when choosing the second set of rooms, you got to think about the third set of rooms. And I like that. I like the decision-making. I like player skill. I mean, it's better than just dumb luck and draw luck and, oh, look, my combo went off, or, oh, look, I'm going first. You know, those are boring ways to determine who wins. I like skill to determine who wins. So does Wizards. That's why they said they're printing more modal spells. So from there, you land at the Temple of Dumathoin, or something like that. And then you just draw a card. And then after that, this goes away. So these are not permanents. They're not a new type. They don't even have a type line. They're merely like a status indicator. So they're not really in play, and they're not really a permanent. You can't target them, can't destroy them, but they do put abilities, or triggers, I should say, on the stack. So each one is a triggered ability, and you can counter a triggered ability. That's what they alluded to in their video explaining this. I don't know if they literally just meant, well, cast that one spell, this is end the turn. There, now it's countered. Or if you could use, like, I don't know, Void Slime or something. Or like, what, Stifle, is that the other one? You know, one of those cards that, like, is supposed to stop a trigger or an ability. Because it might be implied that of a permanent is, you know, the second part of that. Well, this isn't a permanent, so it's kind of confusing, but it's kind of not. They made it confusing by saying you can put these in your sideboard, but they don't take up a slot in your sideboard. So in other words, you can't put them in your sideboard, and they're not sideboard cards. What they mean is you can put them in your deck box? Like, what? Why did they even say that? That doesn't make any sense. The stupid, it burns. But anyway, let's move on to the Tomb of Annihilation, because you probably get how these work. It's pretty simple. Oh, and when they go away, they quite literally go away. They do not go to your graveyard, obviously. I'm making that assumption based on what I heard from the rules. They didn't distinctly say that, but you can kind of fill in the gaps. And whenever there's a Wizard's explanation of anything, you got to fill in the gaps, because they will never, ever give you the full information. So, Tomb of Annihilation, which my party is doing right now, by the way, in 5th edition. Trapped entry, each player loses 1 life. That's amazing. I love that. Guys, when you get to the entrance, make sure you tip over the obelisk for no reason. I assure you nothing bad will happen. Just kidding. I think the video explaining that story has like 3 million views. Anyway, I probably should have said that these are the only 3 dungeons that exist in the set, and you can pick whichever one you want. It's not random. You don't have to roll a die. It's just, oh, this one looks like it would be relevant. Boom, do this one. They made it sound like you have to complete one before jumping into another one, so you can't run two dungeons simultaneously. But other than that, it's up to you. And if you picked one time and then you complete it, you can pick a different one the next time. And then you get the completed dungeon status for the rest of the game if you complete one. Oh, and if like the very final trigger is countered, you still completed the dungeon. So anyway, after the trapped entrance, we've got the expressway to the end, which is Oubliette, or Veils of Fear, and then Sandfall Cell. So Oubliette is discard a card, they're talking about you, by the way, and sacrifice an artifact, a creature, and a land. Why would anyone pick this dungeon? Just kidding, I already read the end. So Veils of Fear is each player loses 2 life unless they discard a card, so that's once again you. And then, well, it's your opponent too, but I mean, geez, this is vicious. And then Sandfall Cell. Each player loses 2 life unless they sacrifice an artifact, a creature, or a land. And then Cradle of the Death God. So this is basically just a really all-in saga. Create the Atropal, a legendary 4/4 black god horror creature token with Death Touch. No indestructible, but I mean, and then why put Death Touch on something that isn't like a 1/1 or a 1/4 or a 1/6 or something? You know, never really got that unless it is trample. But whatever, it's probably just for style, and I guess you might have to kill a 5/5 or something. I don't know. But, oh, I thought it said flying. It's not flying either, so it's just a 4/4 on the ground with Death Touch. Boy, you went through hell to get that. That is, there's so many turns removed and there's so much removal in standard. I don't think anyone's going to run Tomb of Annihilation unless they purposely want their life total lower or some of their cards discarded. And their land blown up. This one, wow, why? Why do that? So then we've got the Dungeon of the Mad Mage. So we've got the Yawning Portal. I feel like this is the one that we just ran, and it took like forever. It took like a year. So you gain 1 life. Okay, cool. The Yawning Portal, I think, is a bar or a tavern or whatever, and then they've got a hole in the floor that basically goes down to like this crazy ass dungeon, and like that's their hook, that's their gimmick. I mean, I would have put up just like games like Dave and Buster's or something, but you know, everybody's got their marketing stunts. And then from there, we've got the dungeon level, Scry 1. Okay, nice. I like this one better than Tomb of Annihilation. Then Goblin Bazaar is your first choice. Create a treasure token, nice, or Twisted Caverns. Target creature can't attack until your next turn. So ramp yourself or play defense. Now, there you go, whichever one's relevant. And then Lost Level, Scry 2, and then we've got Runestone Caverns, which is exile the top 2 cards of your library, you may play them, nice. Or Muriel's Graveyard, create 2 1/1 black skeleton creature tokens. Okay. And then Deep Mines, Scry 3, nice, I love this one. And then Mad Wizard's Lair, draw 3 cards and reveal them. You may cast 1 of them without paying its mana cost. So you are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 triggers away from getting that off. And then you can only cast 1 of 3 only from the top of your deck, completely blind and unplanned unless you, I don't know, put them there. That's the kind of free casting I'm somewhat okay with, where it's like so out of control and delayed and you put so much into it that like the more you put into it, the bigger the reward should be to a limit. I'm still going to be pissed if they summon like a Gulta or something that's not in standard. But, you know, something roughly equivalent to that, but they might completely skunk out. They might get to the bottom and just totally bomb out. And I haven't seen anything that says like, oh, skip 3 levels in the dungeon or something. So I think, no, you're getting through this the hard way. So these look like, honestly, not that competitive because you got to keep getting the triggers to go off. And like, how good is that shortcut card? It's terrible. A 2/5 and you have to deal combat damage to a player? How the hell are you doing that? And why would they ever let you through? I mean, like, it's a 2/5. Like, you're never getting through that dungeon. So, I mean, this whole mechanic looks really, really fun, but I don't think it looks competitive, which is a shame. But then again, you get the dungeon completed status then, so that's like a whole other thing. That's kind of like the city's blessings. I mean, look at Gloom Stalker, another new spoiler here. It's 3 cost 2/3, you know, pretty much nothing, garbage, vanilla, you know, useless creature. But as long as you've completed a dungeon, Gloom Stalker has Double Strike. There you go, 2/3 Double Strike, still kind of crap, but white has a lot of counters and equipment right now. Do you want to run an entire dungeon to get there when you could just summon an angel and skip the whole dungeon thing? Probably not. Still not very good, but this is a common. So we might see like a game-ending card, but only when you've completed a dungeon. So the rest of the whole deck is going to be dungeons. I just hope we see it. That'd be really nice. And really, a dwarf Gloom Stalker with dual-wielded picks instead of a bow? Are you kidding me? So I guess the only thing I didn't mention is you gotta put a little tiny counter of some type, like a little, I don't know. I think they literally just said a small object and then they just drew one in digitally that didn't exist. Would it be nice if they had a little tiny dungeon tracker inside of the fat packs? Yeah, that would be nice. People would lose them, but it would be nice. Just a little plastic token. I mean, Pokemon does little, the holographic flip coins, and those things are worth a little bit. I've been saying for a while now they need to put Planeswalker miniatures inside of the fat packs for absolutely no reason other than they're cool and people would collect them. I mean, you want a little bonus? Hey, I'd say put candy in it, but Mark Rosewater, believe it or not, actually talked about that one time, and it's just not going to happen. There's like 3,000 laws involving it, and they gave up immediately. You get the FDA involved, and you got to label it a certain way. You got to have allergen note. I mean, it's a nightmare. So I almost wish there was like 10 dungeons just because they're cool and I want more of them. But then if you had 10 to choose from, my God, would it take somebody forever to sit there and remind themselves and read what each one does, and then look at the board state, then read it, then consider another one, then make like a top 3, then go back to it. It's like, no, 3 probably is the correct amount. I mean, maybe 5. I mean, once you get to know them, I mean, come on. But then your opponent would want to read it and stuff. So I get why they did it. So the only thing left to ask is, why are these numbered 20, 21, and 22 in the set when they don't even have a rarity symbol? Why are they just floating in the middle of the sequence? And the answer, and I'm very proud of myself for figuring this out, is because they're an above number, which is why they don't say out of and then another number, but they're from the token count. Because remember, tokens have their own out of number. So like the cards in the set will be like, 200 out of 220. Then you got the showcase ones, which are like higher, and all the borderless, all that crap, and all the confusing nonsense. And I think some that are different share a number because they thought that was a good idea. But then the tokens start over. They're from their own set of numbers. And this has a letter T right next to it. So I'm going to think that these are like the tokens end at 19 or something, and then these start at 20. They don't show out of because they're above. That's just how they work. And then the T indicates they're from the token count. That's my guess. So I love this. I think it's kind of an amalgamation of everything I imagined that this would be in my head. It matches D&D perfectly, and I like it. I wish it was maybe a little more powerful, maybe a little bit more playable, just so we'd see it more often. But, something fun to do in casual. Throw it into a commander deck or something, maybe. It's just the really weak creatures and stuff that trigger this. Boy, I just don't think it's going to have the spell support. I don't know. I could be wrong. Who knows? We could just have like an indestructible hexproof enchantment for one that's colorless that says venture into the dungeon. I mean, who knows? So once we got more spoilers, I will continue to cover this, but I'm pretty excited about this set just for what it is. Like I said, not really the state of standard, but just this set for a standalone thing. So thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you guys next time.